Okay, I'm going to go ahead and get started. Welcome everybody, and happy July 4th. And thanks for taking some time out of your July 4th day to spend with me this morning. Going to just take 1 hour, and I have a couple of things to go through. Obviously there's the disclaimer, same as always. I'm not recommending any stocks. I'm not an investment advisor. All trading involves risk. Today's agenda is two things really: backtesting a simple system, which is a moving average cross on the SPY, and creating templates. I'm going to kind of revisit that topic. There's actually an easier way to create your own scanning templates now, so I want to go through some of that. And I just got back from Jeffrey Scott's meeting in Florida, and I covered something about creating templates there, and I wanted to go through that again. We actually had a little bit of a problem, and which I realized the reason for that problem after, and I told some people, but I want to put this presentation together so that that is all covered and solved. So that's it. Backtesting moving average cross, that was a topic that came up during the meeting, and I said that we could do that easily in EdgeRater, and I promised that I would show today how to get that done. And it's fairly straightforward. It's actually a system. The system is we're going to take one symbol, which is SPY, and so let me find. I think I put together a symbol list that contained only SPY while I was there, but if not, I will do that again. Let me just look through my list. Maybe it's here. Well, okay, so I've got a file that contains Apple, but what I'll do is I'll create a brand new symbol list, and just as soon as everybody can do the same thing, I'll set my data provider to Yahoo, and I'll fetch 20 years worth of data. Could be as much as you like. We could say, if I say 50, then it's going to get however much data is available from Yahoo. Might not be 50 years. And I'll just put my symbol in here, press enter, and then I've got one symbol in this symbol list. Save it, and I'm going to call this list just SPY. And of course I then have to update the data, so I'll just press the update data button. It's going to try and go to Yahoo, fetch 20 years worth of data, and it's come back, and so I can see that I've got data from 1995 to 2015, which is 20 years of data. Now what if I set that to 50, just out of interest? I see there's a limit here on, right, I can't go above 20 here. Okay, so it's fetched 20 years worth of data, which is perfectly adequate for this test. So what I'll do is I'll close this down, and I will find the SPY list over here, and I'll just open this up in the chart designer. So I'll open up my chart designer, and then I've got let's 1 second. Okay. Yeah, so what I'm playing, so here we have found a little bit of a problem. I'll just tell you what's happening here. In the list on the left hand side, there's only one symbol, and the chart will change whenever you change symbols, but of course there isn't another symbol here, so it's actually not going to change. So let me just quickly fix that, and I'm just going to add another symbol in here. It's actually a problem with the software, which I will actually fix in the next update, but I'll save this list. I've put another symbol in there, and I'm just going to update this again. Alright, so now I've got two symbols in my list. So now if I switch between the two, you see that I can change the symbol. Right. So SPY over here is 20 years of data. I could put this on a yearly chart, so you can see how it's worked out over 20 years. I put it on a monthly chart. You can see what's happened. Same with the weekly, and same with the daily. But the test that I'm going to run here is a moving average cross. Alright, so what happens, or what has happened over that time frame when the 50 period crosses the 200 period moving average? which is known as the golden cross. And if we put some indicators onto the chart, so I'll go to my list of indicators on the right hand side, and I'll select moving average, and I will just drag that on over here, and I'll set the value of that moving average to be 50 for the first one, and then I'll drag another moving average on, and I'll select the parameter over here to be 200. Okay, so now you've got the two moving averages, and so the system I want to test is basically a long system. So I want to test when the 50 period moving average, which is the red line, crosses above the 200 period moving average, the green line. At that point, I want to buy the symbol in some form or other. I'm just going to make a straight purchase in the trade simulation, and then hold it basically until the cross happens in the opposite direction. Now you can see in SPY that the most recent cross was back down in January of 2012, and it hasn't crossed down yet. So that's important to be aware of, because in our trade simulation, for the last exit, we actually have to say exit on last bar, because the trigger for the exit being the cross of the moving average 50 below the 200 hasn't happened yet. So that would not be listed as a trade in the simulation unless you set the exit on last bar to be true. But if I scroll down through, I'm just going to take now a quick look visually at these crosses, just so you know what is going on. So there's a cross right here that would have been successful until this point here. You know that this trading system does get you in very late, and it gets you out very late. So at this point, by the time the 50 is crossed below the 200, you can see price is already down quite a way. So if you'd have gotten in at this point up here, you'd have gotten out at about the same point. So it gets you in late and gets you out late. I'm not recommending this as a system. I'm just saying that this is how you would test a system. And actually, once we've run the simulation, we can bring up these charts for each trade, and it will be highlighted on the chart where the trade was made. This would be another case down here. You would have gotten out right here, and then just a couple weeks later, you'd have gotten back in again if you were following this system, because the cross happened here, and that was in 2006. So first thing we do is we go to the entries and exits tab. I'm only running this on SPY, so I'm going to uncheck Apple in this case. And what I want to do is find the scan, and there is a scan pre-built in here for detecting moving average crosses. So I go under my system scans, and I'm looking for a moving average cross scan. So let's just, what you can do, you can either scroll down here and search for it in this way, or you can select an item and press Control F for find, and that will pop up a little search box where you can then start to type moving, and after you've typed a little bit, it'll come up with the various scans that have that part of the search criteria in the name, and it's highlighted what it is here. So what I'm looking for is the moving average cross up for the entry, and then I'm going to create exits with the moving average cross down. So all I do is for my, you see I'm on the entries tab over here, I'm going to put moving average up, double click it, and it will come in here, and you get to enter a fast and a slow period. So the fast period is 50, slow period is 200. And I can run this entries without putting the exits in just yet, or I could put the entries in, then put the exits in, then go back and run them both. But what I'm just going to do is run this quickly here, and you see there are only, in that 20-year period, there are only a handful, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times where the moving average 50 has crossed up through the 200. Now from what you can do from this entries and exits is if you wanted to take a look at each of these conditions before we put it into a trade simulation, you can double click and that will bring up a chart. I'm going to set my chart back to a basic nothing on its chart, just so that we can put a couple of indicators on here. Even though I put the indicators on in the chart designer, I didn't save it as a layout, so it's not going to be available as a chart layout here. So I could go back and save it as a layout and then load it in here. Why don't I do that? That makes a lot of sense. So back in here, remember I added these two indicators onto the chart, and I'm going to save this layout, and I'm going to call it my MA50 MA50 MA200 chart. A simple name. So once that has been selected like that, the pop-up chart, I need to then select in the pop-up chart that layout. So I go to chart layouts, go down to my layouts all the way down here, and then you can see that I've got the well, that's MA50 MA10, so I should be able to find MA50 MA200 right there. So obviously previously I've put together a chart with MA50 and MA10 and volume on, and that was listed up here. But anyway, that's how you create and save your own layouts. It's quite easy to do. And then now I'm in this view with entries and exits. If I select one of these and I've got my highlighting turned on, then we'll find as I scroll through this list every time that particular signal has occurred. So if I position the annotation to be in the middle of my chart area and then I move to the next signal will also appear in the middle of the chart area. So that allows you to do things like if you wanted to walk forward without knowing what happened next, you can position it on the right hand side of the chart, and then as you go to the other signals, they'll always be on the right hand side too, and then you could scroll forward to day by day to see what happened next. So it's just one of the rules that the charting annotations follow, that when you select the next event, the annotation appears in the same place on the screen. So we'll just take a look at some of these, make sure we're picking out the right points. You see the event occurs here. You see the cross occurred here. So it is exactly picking out the day that happened. So it's just kind of a way of verifying that we're picking out the right things. So that's true there. This was the last one that occurred right here. Again, that's the correct point that it's picking out. So all seems good there. The other thing actually that's I should mention is interesting to do is because this is a script, it's a scan script called MAU 50,200, and we put it into the entries tab. The script is also available to be put onto a chart. So if I scroll down in my scripts and find this MAU again, or I could do a search like I did before, and this time if I double click, it's going to put that script into a new window, a lower area, and now it's going to show me where the event is. Now because the default values for this script are 22 and 50, it's not doing what we want, which is to use the 50 and 200. So I'll open up formula parameters and I'll change that to a 50 and a 200 and close that down, and now you should find that the event, the blue line here, becomes a 1 value when that criteria condition is true, and that should exactly match with each of these occurrences in this entries list, which it's doing. So it's just sometimes a nice idea to go and check and make sure we're actually getting the things that we expect to be getting. So that's what I'll do there. So that's the entries. Let's go to the exit side. So I'm going back over to EdgeRater and I'm selecting the exits tab. And the exit for this particular system would be moving average crossing down. And if you notice, the short code for moving average crossing up was MAU. The short code for moving average crossing down is MAD. So what I'll do is I'll select that, pop that over here, and we'll say, again, we're looking at 50 and 200 cross, and I'll run this on my list, right, which I've only selected SPY. Even though Apple is in the list, I'm only going to run this on SPY. And now I've got my list of every time the cross has happened in the down direction. And again, we could put the same script into the chart that we're looking at and set the parameters up to be 50 and 200. And now this should pick out the occurrences of moving average crossing down, which it appears to do. So imagine then that what we're doing when we're creating a backtest of this system is we're taking these events which are crossing up, and we want to go long on those events, and we're taking these events crossing down, and we're wanting to exit the position on those events. So here we're going to exit that position, and let's zoom out a little bit and we'll find that will be easier to see. I'll change this to an OHLC chart, make it a little easier. And if I zoom right out, you'll see there was an exit occurred before an entry here, so the system is not going to pay any attention to that. We need to have an entry before we have an exit, so it's not going to consider this whole part of the SPY, which actually would have, in this system, would have been a profitable, very profitable part of the system. So if we had more data, if we went back for further number of years than 20, then we would be able to include that as part of the system too. But the first entry is going to be right here, moving average crossing up, and the exit is going to be, first exit is going to be right here, moving average crossing down, and then it's going to be out of the trade all of the way down here, and it's going to enter very briefly for this period of time, because there is a cross up only for a couple of weeks and then a cross down again. So the system would have gotten in here, would have been early, and then would have gotten out and would have avoided this down to, this is obviously March of 2000, and well, March 2009 is here. That's when the, wait, hang on, we're talking about 2003 at that point. Okay. And then I was thinking of 2009 being the big drop down here, but it looked very similar if you look at the patterns down here. Okay, so anyway, that's the system we're trying to test. What we do is we go to the trade simulation side. So now we've got these as events that are in the entries and exits tab. We can use those events within the trade simulation tab. So it's quite important always to make sure that we've got the entries and exits done before we go to the trade simulation tab. And then in the trade simulation, we'll say we're going to take those entry events, go long. We'll say that we'll go long on the close of that bar, and then we're going to hold, not for a fixed hold period, but we're going to hold until the exit event is true. And when the exit event is true, we're going to exit the next bar on the open. And as I said before, we have to check this exit on last bar so that we include the last, the very last trade. I'm not going to set any stops, and portfolio rules not really important for this test, but we'll just use the default values, which are 100,000 initial equity, dollars per trade. Well, we're only trading one trade at a time, so let's say 100,000 in there too. You'll see it doesn't really make any difference in terms of finding the statistics of the trade, but we'll put it in there just for fun. And once you've got that set up, you can then just hit the run button. And the trades that then have all been knit together. And you'll note that you can always see the exit reason of the trade. Exit event, exit event, exit event, and then the very last trade was exited due to the fact that it hit the last bar, even though the exit event hadn't occurred. Now what you can do is, now we've got these in a trade list, I'm going to just shrink that up a bit, and then I'll be able to go through my trades. Now if I'm going through a trade list, the chart annotations are going to show me both the entry and the exit. So here's the entry, and you can see the blue line is a 1. The blue is a 1 value here, so yes, that would have been an entry. And at the exit, the blue would have been indicating that exit. So that looks good. We go down to all of the others. We'll see the entry here corresponding with this signal down here, and the exit corresponds with this signal here. So I'll go through all of these, and I can just see on the chart annotated where the entry and the exit was. And then on the last one, we get the entry, but we don't have an exit until the very last bar. And if I scroll over to the right and scroll down a bit, we'll see that the exit is being pointed out with the reason for exit. If the reason for the exit was the exit event, then what you'll see is it will say exit colon exit event. So the exit always tells you the reason for the exit. And in this case, because we got to the last bar, the reason for the exit on this trade was last bar. Okay, so the system itself, we can now see the results of that trading system, and we have looking all green except for one period. Let's find that one and find out what that looked like on the chart. I'm just gonna back that up a bit and bring that up on the chart. Okay, so this was the losing trade, and that was the point that I said before, where it got you in again, but then it got you out again before this further down leg down here. But it did end up being a losing trade of minus 1.98%. But you can see the reason why is just because the 50 period moving average crossed up through the 200. The golden cross occurred. So it was a sign that the market may have been turning around, but then it proved that it wasn't turning around when you got the cross down, and so it got you out, it got you in here, got you out here. Quite a shallow move of the moving average crossing above the other moving average, and because it was so shallow, the price, it actually was a pretty good exit, right? You only lost like 1.98%, but all of the others are good winners. Well, this one isn't so good, the 0.24%. Let's see what happened here. Right, so this would have been a very annoying trade if you were in here, because you got in at obviously it was quite extended by the time the entry occurred, but because of this sharp sell-off here, and the cross occurred a bit later, the exit was very late too, and therefore the gain was, you can see it's like 0.8%. So it would have been very frustrating. You'd been in this trade for 215 days and you would have made 0.24%. So anyway, I'm not saying, as I said before, I'm not advocating this as a system to trade, just showing you how you would analyze the system and using EdgeRater, and see whether or not you can improve on it, or if you would like to trade such a system. Now let's take a look at some of the good ones. We'll sort by profit and loss. Obviously the best move is this 69.5% move, and that occurred, that is the very last trade, I believe. Yep, so it gives us the last bar exit. So from the point that it got in 2012 January, it is still in the trade. Currently the trade is 867 days in length. Some other good ones, there's 23% move with a 485-day hold. So 485 days is about 2 trading years almost. So you've been holding this for a long time, but not a bad move. 23% over 2.5 years. It's better than you could have done in a bank, but a very low maintenance type of system, right? Sit back and wait for the golden cross to occur. Anyway, that's how you'd go and analyze that system. And also I wanted to show a couple of other things in here. We've got the trade list, obviously, which is essentially the list that all of the other calculations are taken from. So this is the most important screen as far as the system is concerned, and then the system is able to calculate lots of other things from that trade list. So you can see a daily equity chart. You click on that, and my system is running a little slow for some reason, and you can see the equity, 100,000 starting equity, these periods here are periods where there are no trades being made, so it exited and it waited a while to get back in. It was in for a little bit back here and then got out, and then was no trades for this period of time, and then you were in a trade, and then essentially this move is actually would mimic SPY because you're in SPY at that time only, and then you're out at this point and you're back in again here. So these points where it's flatlined is essentially saving you from the down moves in SPY. So it's looking pretty good as a system, very basic system, and you end up with $161,000, starting with 100,000, and that's actually the profit of 161,000. If we go to our list at the trade summary, we'll see that there were 8 trades, 7 winners, 1 loser, and the average profit and loss per trade was 20%. The starting equity was 100,000, the ending was 261, so the profit was 161,000. So over that time period of 20 years, it's 161% profit. Anyway, that was something that cropped up during the Florida seminar. Jeffrey was talking about such a system using the Golden Cross and showing a few examples, and then I suggested that you could easily test that in EdgeRater, which I showed very quickly at the seminar without really explaining what I was doing, and now I promised that I would show here how to do that. So now everybody knows. Now, of course, you can put your own different entries and exits in if you have other systems you want to test, and you would go to the chart scripts area, and if you wanted to test scans using scans that are already built in the system, then you can do that just by using the existing scans. That would be very easy, and there's quite a few in here, probably 100 or so. And then if you have your own scans that you want to try, maybe you've read something, or you have an idea about something, some kind of cross system, or some threshold level has been met in some indicator, you can actually write your own scripts. So I'm not going to get into how to do that exactly in this webinar, but we should do that fairly soon. But you write your own scripts. They'll exist under the My Scripts area up here. And a script can be either an indicator script, meaning that it's just giving you an indicator value, so an analog value essentially that changes every day. That's an indicator type script. Something like moving average would be an indicator. Or you can write a script which is a scan script. The main difference between indicator and scan is that a scan script will give you a value of a 1 or a 0. And therefore it's being used as to generate events. The event is generated when the value is 1, and the event is not generated when the value is 0. And the scan scripts are the ones that you use for your entries and exits. You can also put them on a chart, as I did before, and you can see the blue lines indicating 1s and 0s. But anyway, that's how you would do it. You go to My Scripts, and then you say create a new script. You can always select an existing scan or indicator and then edit it. And what will happen is you'll see exactly how that script is put together, and you could save that as your own script and modify it, or create a completely new one. It would be up to you. And we should get into some script writing in some future Saturday webinars. Okay, so I hope that's clear, and we'll move on to the next topic, which is creating templates. So first of all, though, I will ask if there are any questions. Excuse me. And let me bring up my chat box. If that's okay, let me know if you're okay with that, and then I'll move on. If you have any questions, let me know too. Okay, great. Looks like we're all good. So I'll move on. The next thing I want to talk about is creating your own templates. So templates are the area in EdgeRater which make it easy to do lots of things. So that backtesting example I just did, you notice there was a lot of work involved in terms of dragging things onto the screen, running things, setting up my list of parameters in the trade simulation. So that's work that is not hard, but it's just repetitive if you're having to do that time and time again. So the whole idea of templates is to simplify all of that activity. Essentially, the idea is you select your template, you select your then symbol list, and then you press the run button, and you get the results that you need without having to do too much work. The types of templates that we're going to be creating now is the scanning type of template. An example of a scanning template is, I'm going to select, could be any one of these. I'm just going to select something that I'll select my Hot Topics in play template. I'm sure everybody's seen that, and I'll choose the list of weekly options, which is essentially a list of 390 stocks that have weekly options associated with them. And then I'll just run this template. So all you have to do then is what I just did. You select the category. In my case, it's Hot Topics. You select the template. In my case, I'm selecting in play. You make sure your symbol list is correct. You can choose any list, and you need to make sure that it has data up to date. So this list is up to date as of July the 2nd, which was Thursday's close, which is the last available close. And then you just press run. So it's going to go through the template, and it's a scanning template, meaning that it's going to show me the results of scans. Internally in the system, it's actually called a last bar values template, which really means that it takes a chart, for instance, indicators on a chart or scans, and it goes to the very last bar. So we go over to the last bar of the chart, and it will just tell me the indicator value for this last bar. So in case of this moving average, if I was showing MA50 in the template, the value would be 95.89 because that's the value of the moving average for the last bar on the chart. And with the 200, it's 94.86. The last bar value for close is 99. And then obviously there's open, high, and low there too, and volume. And basically any indicator that's available in this chart scripts area under indicators, or any scan or any of your own scripts, are candidates to be put into a template for scanning. So this particular template, and maybe this wasn't the best example to run because this isn't the one I actually want to start with modifying, but it's just an example of a scanning template, and it's showing me the different values of the various indicators that I've configured in here. Now if you're going to create your own template with your own favorite indicators and favorite signals, then you are going to have to change some of these columns, because these columns are specific to in this case stocks that have been in play during the last n days, in this case 10 days. So what I'm going to do is start with a base scanning template and show you how to modify it, and it's actually gotten a lot easier in some of the most recent updates. So we bring back the EdgeRater screen. The template I'm going to start with is, I could start with this Hot Topics one, but actually I think it's going to make more sense if I start with the George Lee squeeze template. Let me just run that to show you an example of what it looks like when you run it. Okay. So you've got columns here for squeezing, whether a stock is in a squeeze or not. You can filter by those columns. And the squeeze is when Bollinger Bands are inside the Keltner channels, indicating a lower periods of volatility, and it's giving you a yes if that condition is true. It also has columns in here for moving average. So I've got the MA50 value here, and I've got then a column which is telling me how close the close price is to the moving average. In this case, it's 2% below the moving average. If you bring up a chart and then have a look at this on a chart, then we can see that MA50, which is this blue line up here, is 101. And if we look at the value in the column, it's 10186. It should exactly match the value of the moving average 50s, so which it does. But this is a way to show indicator values in a spreadsheet type report, without having to scroll through many charts. And the whole idea of a scanning template is that it highlights your it highlights the things you're interested in with scans and brings them to the top of the list. One sec, I've got a question here come in, so I'm just going to read that. 1 second. Okay. So somebody's having trouble with getting the audio working, and I believe my sound is okay, so it's problem on that end. So anyway, there is a recording available, and let me just type a message. I'm just going to say recording will be sent out after. All right. Let's get back to, sorry about that, but yeah, okay. All right, so what we need to do then to create our own template, you could start from scratch in a template. That is a very difficult point to start from. So it's much better to start from an existing template and modify it. So what the best thing to do is select the template that you want to start from. I want to save my changes here. And so you're in EdgeRater, you've got the template, you select the template you want to start from, and then you just say save as. All right, and you need to put it into the Edge Club folder, and I'm going to call this webinar template. Oh, I already have webinar template, so I'm going to call it I'm just going to call it July 4th template. All right, and it goes into the root Edge Club folder, not into the system folder, which is where all the system templates are. And so after I save that, and then I go up to my my templates area, then I'll find that template is here. Now it's still called Daily Squeeze because I haven't actually gone in and changed the name of the template. So what you then do is you open it up in go to your file system, go to EdgeRater, and I'll bring this up in a sec. I'm just doing this on my other screen. So you go Documents, EdgeRater, Edge Club, and let's bring this over to this screen, and you see that it's saved under Documents, EdgeRater, Edge Club. It's saved the template here as July 4th template. Now to do editing, I would do this in Excel. So you double click on it and it will open it up in Excel eventually. And in the parameters tab over here, you can see the name is called Daily Squeeze. So here I want to call it this instead, July 4th template. Don't have to call it template, but just something that you're going to remember. And I'm going to set the max look back, which is basically how many bars the template is going to consider in its calculations. And for what we want to do, I actually want to consider more than 252 bars, which is only 1 year. I'm going to consider, just for kicks, 1,000 bars. Now, the more number of bars that are used in running the template, the longer the template will take to run. So if you know that your scans are only using 10 bars worth of data, you can set that to 10 and it will just run a lot quicker. But if you set it to maximum number, 100,000, whatever, you'll consider all of the bars, but it will take longer to run. So it's just a little optimization there. You note that the template type is last bar values, which is what I said before. And that's really all you have to do for setting the name. If I then go to, let's just save that. I'll hit the save button. And I'll go and select it back in my templates now. And now you see the template's July 4th template is right here. If I select it, I'm actually looking at the Excel file. I'm looking at exactly the same view that I saved it, the state that I saved it in Excel, which happen to be on the parameters tab. But what we're going to look at is the so I've got Excel on the right hand side. What we're going to look at is the signals tab. This is where all of the signals are generated. Now, if I was to create a template from scratch, I'd have to put this signals tab in myself, and then I would have to also set it up with different names to name the different areas. And notice they're already in here. So I've got a symbol column area, which is column A. I've got in here a header row, which is row 4. So it's already been marked up with names that EdgeRater needs in order to process the template. That's why I like to start with something that's already existing. And what we're going to do in here is, instead of let's see what we're going to do. So, right, you'll note there's some gray areas, and these are gray because they're trying to be hidden from view, because we don't want to clutter up the user interface. They're not important when you're looking at a report, but they are important when you're designing a template. So the gray areas are the formulas that are going to be run for the column. So if they're also marked with ERF something or other. So ERF1, ERF2. If I select one of these, you can see ERF_1 is the close price. ERF_2 is the description. ERF_ is this whole set of cells up here. So anything that appears in here is considered a formula that EdgeRater will then run and show the value in the respective column. So let's take a look at MA50. Potentially we want to have, and this is going to be a simple example, maybe I want to have a column of moving average 100. So what I'll do is I'll insert a blank column here, and I'll insert another blank column because I also want to find out how close the close price is to the 100 period moving average. A nice feature in Excel is that you can say paint format. So I select those columns and I'm going to paint that format on here. And now I can just type this. What I'm typing in here is just a name. It's not actually used in the calculation. It's just a header. The important cells, as I said before, are these ones here where you type the name of the formula. And down here I'm going to type, again, names that are not used in the calculation, just for informational purposes. And then I always like to put in the example row, fictitious stock here is ABC. This just shows me the format that it's going to come out in the report. So it's going to be a 0 value, and it's going to be this is going to be a calculation column. Alright, so my format I know is good because it's the same as the MA50. It's going to be basically 2 decimal places. And of course you can format it how you like. You can put, if it was a percentage value, you'd put this as a percent. If it's a dollar value, you could put it as dollar. But this is a number value, so we're going to keep it as a number. You can change the color of this. You can also make this a conditional format so that it highlights green if it's, say, above a certain value. It doesn't make sense in the case of moving average 100, but maybe C% moving average 100 does make sense. So you could say highlight this in red if the close is greater, the percent to the moving average 100 is greater than a certain number. So maybe that would give you an indication of being overbought, something like that. So then what do we need in this column up here to indicate that this is a calculated column? We need the formula, the script. And you'll note here it's MA50. Well, that gives us a very good clue as to what to put in here. Let's put in MA100. And you find the names of these scripts. They are just the scripts that we looked at before. So if you go to a chart window, go over to your chart scripts area, these are the names that you end up putting into those columns. To find the actual true name, it's always best to put the indicator onto a chart, then pop out the formula parameters, and then take a look at this area up here, and sometimes you have to change the parameter so that it updates this area up here. But in this case, if you wanted to look at MA200, this is the name that you would put in your template, MA200. If you are putting in scans instead of indicators, all right, so across above upper Bollinger Band, it's always a good example. All right, and as I select that, we see the name should be scan.aubb20,2. In this case, we're using, because it's a scan, we have to prefix the name with scan dot. But anything that's under indicators, we don't need to prefix it with anything. If it's your own script, so my scripts, I've got a script here. This would be prefixed with my dot. Okay, so my.mmd_diff 51021 if I wanted to get this. So that's just a script. You won't have this. That's just something I've been playing around with. And but if I wanted to put that in a template, that would be the name I would have to put in the column. All right. So that's how you get the names for the columns. So we've got MA100 as a simple example, but then here's a calculated column. This is a column that is not it's not coming from EdgeRater. This is going to be calculated within the spreadsheet, and it's a very similar calculation to the MA50 calculation. And if I highlight that, you'll see that it's basically the calculation is D5 minus S5 over S5. So D5, which has been highlighted, which is the close price, minus S5, which is the value of MA50, divided by the value of MA50. So it's telling you where close is percentage-wise in relation to MA50. So if we want to do the MA100, we then have to do a similar thing. So what we do is we select that cell, and we just make it just a standard Excel formulas, and any Excel formula will work, and they're all interpreted within the EdgeRater spreadsheet, so you can use whatever you like. And EdgeRater is also able to determine the conditional formats and that type of thing. So in this case, we would go D5 minus Q5 over D5. And at the moment, it's a divide by 0 error, because you'll note that my sample value for close is 0. If I put that as maybe 10 instead, then you'll note that the values come in here. And I think I typed the formula wrong here, so it's D5 minus S5 over S5. For that one, this is actually D5 minus Q5 over Q5. Yep, that makes sense. All right, and because Q5, the value for the moving average 100 is 0, that's why we've got the divide by 0. If I put the sample data in here as 10, or I could put it in as 9, and then it's telling me, if close price was 10, if the moving average value was 9, then close price is 11% above. Close price is 11% above that 100-day moving average. And I'll put a sample date value in here too. Let's put a sample value of 11 in here. All right. So this time, if the 50-period moving average was 11, the close price was 10, then we're 9% below the 50-period moving average. And whatever you put in this row here is going to be removed before the report is calculated, but it's just put into the template as an example of formatting and calculations. And this will actually be copied down for every symbol that's in your symbol list. Okay, so I've made the changes, simple changes, and I'm going to save this. Just hit the save button. All I need to do, and go over to my EdgeRater again. It comes up, and I'll take a look at it in my list of templates, bring up my library, again go here, select the July 4th template, and you see, as soon as you select it, it's come up showing me exactly the state that I saved it in Excel, including, in this case, I saved it with this row selected and highlighted, so that's actually come up on here too. If you're creating your own template and you want to have it looking good when you do the final saving, while you're doing testing and creating it, you can it doesn't really matter what state you save the template. If you have these things selected, it doesn't matter. But whenever I create a template for production and delivery as part of the monthly templates, I always leave the template. I try and leave the only thing selected on a particular tab would be maybe the header, and I always try and leave the template saved with the template info tab showing. And template info tab we'll call July 4th template, and then you put whatever description in here that's appropriate for the template. So if you save it like that, then what will happen if we go, and every time we save it we actually have to go back and reselect it in here. But if I select, because I saved it with the template info tab showing, now when I select the template from within the user interface of EdgeRater, it's actually going to show me the template info tab, which is the important tab to show because it lets you know what the template is all about before you run the template. And then part of the processing of this template or any scanning template is that it will process the template and pop out the report, and it will show you the template, the tab that's next to template info, which is the signals tab in this case. So let's just go ahead and run this after all that chat. Let's just go ahead and run this template that we created. You see it's working fine. You'll note if you've made a mistake, because this bar will either complete very, very quickly or not start at all, and then you have to go and find out where the error is. But this one was fine, and I'll just show you the report here. We've got our new column. The new column is MA100. It's got the value in here, 102.95 for MA100. Always, it's a good idea when you've put new columns in to make sure they're showing you the right information. So I always like to double click on the cell, and in this case, what I'm going to do here is put this back to a single open, high, low, close candle chart, and then just put on things that I'm interested in, which are MA, a couple of MAs. Oh, and I had that already saved, so I should have actually just used that, but it doesn't hurt to do this. And I'm basically looking at the 50 and the 100. I'm just trying to verify that the column values are correct. So the 50 is 101.86, which is indicated right here, 101.86. That matches there with the 50. The 200 is 102.95, which matches there. I can see that close price is 3% below the 100 period moving average, and it's 2% below the 50 period moving average, which is great. And I mean, it's great to be able to see that in the template, because of course once you've got it in the template, you can then sort and filter to your heart's content, and that is a good way to see it. Now hang on one second, there's a question coming in, so let's see. Yeah, I'll just have to send out the recording. Okay, so there we go. Let's see, what else is useful to show here. I was going to mention that I changed the layout of this chart. Okay, I changed the layout of this chart, but this template is configured to show me particular layouts whenever I select something in the template. That is decided by this chart layouts tab down here, and you can associate a range of cells with a particular set of scripts. I'm not going to show how to do that in this webinar, we'll do that another time, but just to be aware that the template is associated with a particular layout. So what's happened, and you saw that here, is now I've selected a symbol, it's actually changed the layout back to the layout that has been defined in the template. Now if you didn't want to do that, you turn off link to template layout. So now if we went back to put our moving average in here, we've got MA 5200, remember that was the one I created before. I could just go back and make that an MA 50 and a 100, and that puts us in the back to where we were. Now because I've turned off linking to template layout, I can change my symbols, and it's not going to change the layout back to the squeeze layout, which is the layout that's been defined for this template. And you can define a layout for different areas of the template. So if you had a special layout you wanted to show for MA 100, whenever you click on MA 100 you want this to show something different, you can set that up in the chart layouts tab and have that shown. So it's quite a powerful feature. But anyway, that is it for this session on creating your own templates, and it's really shown you how to modify an existing template quite easily. If you have your own completely new set of fields that you are interested in, then you would probably start with a template. Again, you'd probably start with a base template like this and delete all of the existing columns and then add your own. If you want to build a template which is made up of columns from other existing templates, then you would go and find those templates on the file system, and they're under, as we've said before, the system ones are under system area. You could open these up. For instance, if you wanted to put seasonality columns in, you'd find the annual trends now, or any of the other annual trends columns, and you could just copy those columns into your own template. So you're then making up a template which is an aggregate of other templates, and you could just run that one. So if you had, say, 3 templates you run every day to find your chosen symbols, then you could make a template which was a collection of all 3 of those other templates, and then you'd only have to run that one. And another thing that's new with the system with EdgeRater is, instead of, creating a template containing your chosen columns is the best way to go. But if you were running templates and you wanted to copy columns from a report to another report, that is actually quite easy to do now. So I ran this July 4 template, but say I wanted also some information about seasonality. I go to my annual trends now, and then I'll run that. Okay, it's going and calculating the values, and then it's going to come up and show me in a separate report some values for annual trends. Now, if I wanted to copy some of these columns into this existing report, you can't do that just using Excel. The reason being, obviously, these are in different orders. So if I'm just going to do a straight copy and paste, and I copy this set of columns here and try and put it in here, it's going to not match up properly with the symbols that are in the destination. So there is a new feature in EdgeRater which is called copy column. So I select copy column. That's essentially pasted that column onto the clipboard with an association to the symbol. And then what I can do is go to the destination area and select column E, and I'm going to say insert copied column. Alright, now what that's done is, you'll note it's not, the first over here was 2%, and now the first over here is 1%, because what it's done, it's matched up the symbol. If I come down within the source document and find CORP, let's see where that is. I can always do a search. Control F is always a good way to search CORP, and there's a few of them. So let's find, happens to be a very common name, I guess. Yep. Okay, well, let's sort by symbol, and then we'll go down to CORP. Alright, so CORP, row 80 on here, has values of 1%, 3, and 1. You see when it copied in against CORP over here, it put the right values against the against the symbol. So it's a way to, once you've generated a report, to copy columns into or between different reports. And it's a very handy feature. And if you had a report which contained things like industry groups, and you can find reports containing industry groups in my shared folder, which I believe I gave a link to, but in case I didn't, the shared folder is right here. It's actually quite important that you type these in the right casing. 1WQBTA5 with capital T and A. It's important to put upper and lower casing correctly. When you go to that, you'll go to an area on my shared drive which contains some files, Excel files, which have an association with industry groups for symbols. And then you could put in, say, an industry group column into your report if you were interested in seeing that. So anyway, I can show that another time. We currently have just run out of time, and I think we covered everything I wanted to cover, so quite pleased about that. There's the shared folder. Here's another set of resources. If you're new to EdgeRater, there's a whole bunch of getting started tutorials on the YouTube site. What we covered today is a little more advanced. We talked about how to do some backtesting. So there's a few more steps involved than just running a simple template. And we talked also about how to create your own template. Again, that's a more advanced topic, and mostly when people get started with EdgeRater, they do not do that, and they would just use the existing templates, which is the perfectly great way to go until you get familiar with the template reports. And then when you're ready to create your own template, then there is a process available for doing that, which we just talked about. So that's it, and thanks very much for attending, and have a great July 4th weekend, and I will see you next time. Okay, bye guys.